G'day, Mr. Bennett here. What we're going to be looking at today is the two different types of graphs that you need to be able to use. Now, as I said before, is the expectation of really this whole course for the quadratics is being able to use these two types of equations to either graph the equation given the equation, or use the graph of the equation to find the equation. Alright, so working back and forth from that. Now I'm just going to show you a very simple example of what we might do. So the idea here is this graph here, these out, so therefore we're looking at our x-intercepts here. Our x-intercepts are going to be alpha and beta, alright, in this particular case. Alright, so that basically means that if I had my axes here, alright, then if I've got a curve like that, which could be a bridge, right, Sydney Harbour Bridge sort of concept, alpha and beta, then having this information here will allow me to work out what the equation is, because I can put that into the equation, whatever those values are, and then the only thing I don't know in that whole equation will be the A value. How I actually work out the A value is quite simple. All I would do is I will use a particular point on the curve, whether it's a vertice point or any other point that it might go through, and then that will fix what the A value is. Keeping in mind, I could draw this equation here, going through this point here. I could draw this equation here, going through that point there. They would all have that same equation as x take alpha, x take beta. The only difference between these equations will be the A value. The A value will fix how wide it is, how steep it is, whether it's going to be going up or going down. Alright, so keep that in the back of your mind, what we're actually going to be doing there with that. This particular equation though, alright, is really useful if you get given something like this. Alright, so if I get given a vertice point, alright, so that vertice point there is say 3, 2, right? So I could then write my equation for this one here as y is equal to a, the h is going to be 3, so it's going to be x take 3 squared plus the k value, which is 2. Now that's really useful. Again, if I have another point that this thing goes through, let's say that's my point there, then that will allow me to work out what the actual equation is. Again, I could have some other types of functions here. I could have a function here that might go like that. Okay, that's when I've got a negative A value. Alright, or I could have another steeper function here. Alright, and that would mean that I've got a bigger A value. So you get the idea that you can predict what the curve's going to do by looking at the equation itself. So the A value really is quite crucial here in terms of doing your graph now. This is the real key essential stuff that you need to be able to understand. Things like factorization using the quadratic formula are all things that are useful, but the bottom line is all they are is finding, when we do that, is finding these alpha and beta values. Okay, when we do all that factorization. So again, I think I've already shown you can use technology to do that. So is that a really crucial skill? Possibly, but probably the most important part of that is actually knowing and understanding what that really means. That's probably the more important part of that. Anyway, we'll go on to our next video. So hopefully this sort of gives you a bit of context of what we're actually doing with the whole topic.